Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, I'd like to welcome you all to our opening event. The Ministry of Treasury and Finance provides funding. EBRD and the Ministry of Trade has collectively developed the process for end-to-end export process design for the blockchain technology. The meeting is to last for about an hour. You will be able to have access to our team through the email, which will be shared at the end of the broadcasting. During the talk, Mr. Mehmet Üvez, Deputy Head of Turkey from EBRD and the Head of Ankara Resident Office, and Mr. Bülent Tuncer from the DG for Export, the efficacy of blockchain processes. I now would like to give the floor to Mr. Üvez as the Deputy Head of Turkey EBRD and Head of Ankara Resident Office. Thank you very much, Mr. Tayfun. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, welcome to the online opening event. Dear audience, through investments, but also through competitiveness, green economy, comprehensiveness, inclusion, diversity, are all the fields that the private sector and the public sector have been contributing to this transformation, and we've been providing technical support to the process as well. As you have well experienced, digital technologies have become to contribute to a more inclusive and an easier way of functional economy. Green economic transformation, particularly for the vulnerable groups, including women, will be supported in terms of inclusion in economics. As the EBRD, we also have the strategic and fiscal framework and our digital approach. Therefore, digitalization, inclusiveness, and the green areas will also be focused in all of our working fields, particularly for digital approach, investment, policy incentives, and consultancy will be extended to countries that we're active in to support digital transformation. Since 2009, EBRD has been working to improve competitiveness of the private sector to contribute to sustainable development. As the bank, one of the main strategies for Turkey is to contribute and develop national economy and to provide access to chains of value. Therefore, in providing a competitive digital technology, not only in public but also in private, we tend to support digital access, running projects for this respect. Within this framework, today, we have the initiative and the honor of officially announcing and kicking off the project for the end-to-end export process via blockchain technology. Country, and it's a very important policy incentive. Blockchain technologies will provide time-wise and also opportunity-wise availabilities to facilitate trade, to reduce energy, and also will contribute to improving collaboration amongst amongst parties, and it will also contribute to access to value chains. At the end of the program, there will be a presentation by ATES Software, which you will hear about the potential of the blockchain technology in improving trade. Taking the opportunity with our Ministry of Trade, we aim to take the first step in trade for digitalization, and we hope that this project will be paving the way for other sectors in terms of creating creative projects. I would like to take the opportunity to thank and acknowledge all our stakeholders having contributed to the realization of the project. Ministry of Trade and Finance would like to specifically thank in this occasion. The added value that will be brought by blockchain technology will be elaborated by all the stakeholders in the time of the project. There will be collaborative stakeholder activities in the span of the project, and we hope to get together with you again. We'll be leaving the floor to Mr. Tayfun. I would like to thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much. And now we are moving to the Ministry of Trade. Deputy DG of Exports, Mr. Tuncer, will be making the opening remarks. Thank you. Actually, it's really a very important project, and I would like to thank you all for the opportunity of being together with you, although we are in an online platform. Welcome to our event. Now, to contribute to the export vision of our country, we have started many projects, and we have the honor of sharing with you another one of these projects, which is quite developing technologies, and their use in foreign trade is quite critical as a contribution of our national economy. And I have the honor of reiterating that once again. There are, of course, some expected social lives. We all function and we all experience these kind of changes. For the economies to stay competitive, innovation-based growth is an area that the economies will need to invest in. Therefore, new generation technologies must be considered as a priority. We have started working on the export processes, including the support of these technologies within the country with the blockchain technologies. Namely, the project for design of end-to-end export process within the country via blockchain technologies will be contributed Therefore, integration of such technologies to the systems of the ministry will, I think, be facilitated by integrating other necessary technologies. Concluding my remarks, I would like to thank everyone having contributed to the design of the project. We do believe that the project, namely the design of end-to-end export process within the country via blockchain technology, will be a guiding project for our future projects. Thank you very much and stay healthy. Thank you.
We thank you, distinguished Deputy General Director. Now I'd like to move the General Director for Foreign Relations of the Ministry of Treasury and Finance will be delivering his opening address. Yes, please. Distinguished guests, before I start my talk, I first of all would like to extend my deepest gratitude to all the participants and the team of the EBRD. Now we are on the occasion of the design of end-to-end export process via blockchain technology. EBRD is a very major contact point for us and always leading all these types of innovative approaches in our country. And with the bank, we hope that our cooperation will continue in the future. And the blockchain project that we are here together is just continue with the leadership of the Ministry of Trade and all the relevant companies as well. And I'm sure that it will be very useful for all the stakeholders. Together with EBRD, the donor fund, we are more than happy to be the co-contributor of this project for financing. EBRD in the interim report recently reported, as mentioned, digitalization and at the same time dissemination of knowledge via the internet in a fast manner provides so many good things to the companies. As we all know, digitalization is actually quite important and that leads to transformation. Of course, there are so many digital opportunities, but the households and the corporates should actually have more access to all these digital means. At this point in the field of digitalization, our country has taken so many steps. I would like to mention them, especially in terms of regulation. We have taken so many steps and we continue to do so. From this perspective, our Ministry of Trade and Technology have the technology-oriented technology breakthrough, especially providing so much support and subsidies and incentives to such companies. SMEs are the backbone of our economy. We have the SME administration. We are supporting them also in terms of R&D. In 2021-2025, we have the AI strategy, the national strategy for AI. We at the same time have the e-government gateway. This portal allows for one-stop access to all institutional processes. Smart cities, another topic that we pay attention to in terms of digitalization. We have the national smart city strategy. Also, internet safety and digitalization is an important part of this. As the country, we are just so determined to continue with our works in terms of digitalization. Blockchain technology is so important that brings us so many opportunities, which is a part of the digitalization, and it's much more important after the pandemics. We wish for the widespread use of this technology in our country. In concluding my words, I wish for this project to be successful for all the stakeholders and our country as well. Thank you. Thank you, distinguished General Director. Now let's move to another speaker, Kenan Güler. He will be taking the floor for the outlook of the project, and then Ümmü Gülsüm Özal will be detailing the project. Yes, please. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to start by celebrating the World Women's Day. And I do hope that rather than remembering one of the most tragic freedom fight of women in history, we will have the chance to all together celebrate the World Women's Day for the world who are managing the world, which actually brings a lot of great potential and the actual potential of the woman in work life. I'd like to start, first of all, I would like to thank to all the relevant parties who contributed to this unique project developed by the financing of EBRD, Ministry of Treasury and Finance, and at the same time the Trade Ministry. I would like to say thank you as a customs broker and international trade expert in this system. As we all know, there are so many developments in science and technology. It helps us improve our prosperity, makes us work more productive, and even extends our lives. And as we all know, blockchain infrastructure brings us to another threshold in terms of safe digital technologies. As you all know, blockchain in particular is bringing a huge potential and will bring so many good advantages to the relevant stakeholders in terms of foreign trade, compliance with the legislation, logistics, and at the same time the supply chain, and in terms of multilateral networks and repetitive data sharing. This project actually aims to transfer the e-trade processes into the blockchain, which is actually focusing on the export through road transport, which is the most complicated and multi-party and the most challenging way of export in terms of legislation as well, and will also contribute to finding so many solutions in terms of removing the inefficiency that is the case. And therefore, our main goal for this project is to make Turkey realize its actual own potential in export. And before I give the floor to Gülsüm, the project coordinator, to share the details of the project, I'd like to say a couple of words about the future of the blockchain technology, which is actually in a way that will bring us to the international movement of the commodity in the ecosystem. First of all, there is actually singular systems that require so many networks. I mean, there are so many human-centered, in particular, decision-making processes. I'm sure that our colleagues who are working in the export would know it. In particular, there are so many paperwork and so on. So the commodity is moving in several different aspects. But probably there will be a system integration by way of different service approaches. It will be machine supported and the less human-oriented decision-making mechanism that we're talking about. And in particular, for example, thinking about today's conditions, maybe the things would change. Of course, there still will be need for all, but there will not be the involvement of too many people. What I mean is that a system integration through different platforms, and a certain part of the project is so. Again, there will be machine supported and more human focused decision-making process will continue. But in particular, for so many printed materials and so many paperwork, it will be reduced. The future, if you're asking me, you know, all our ministries, the Ministry of Trade under their umbrella, we at the same time have another project. There is a gateway that all the institutions are together. And there will be a system integration also to the, of course, we will provide details about this, but there will be smart contracts and so on. Machine supported decision-making process would be a part of this. And therefore, we will have a unique electronic documentation system. Today, for example, we can still produce so many electronic documents, but looking at the functioning in terms of the data and the functioning processing of the data, we still do some of the things in printed. And according to the 11th development plan developed by the President's office, as you all know, one of the important points in the plan is digitalization and the efficient use of digital technologies, which is an important part, a milestone of this plan. And of course, this is one of the most comprehensive projects that I'm a part, my team is a part, and therefore I'm more than happy to actually take this opportunity. And I would like to give the floor to Gülsüm for detailing the project. Thank you very much, Kenan. I would like to say welcome to all the participants. A great day, and we're together for a great project. In particular, as an engineer woman, I would like to congratulate the Women's Day of each and every one of you. Hopefully, in the field of, in particular, science and technology, we will be taking a step to a world where there will be more women. I actually have a presentation that I prepared for you, so I would like to move to my presentation now. Before the details of the project, there are some steps. I will speak about the scope of the project first, then how we are using the concept blockchain, the objective of our project, the basic steps of this project that I would like to share with you. And I will conclude my words speaking about industry-specific advantages that we will have out of this project. First of all, the scope of the project. very distinguished speakers before me already mentioned, but end-to-end handling of all the export processes. This is the scope that we have from the very beginning to the end. It starts with invoicing and the time that the product has left the borders of Turkey. And in particular, there is a need for proof of concept. So our stakeholders in particular, there are so many documents and information, and there is actually a proof of concept. And the main goal in here is to design the blockchain technology. In proof of concept, what we're trying to say in here is that there's a theoretical information and how this theoretical information would be useful in practice. And that is the proof of concept out of the project that we have. So by using the blockchain technology, how we are transforming each and every process in this export process as a whole. Now, the export, as you all know, is quite comprehensive, and it actually covers a wide range of area. Now, with the concept of blockchain technology, there are certain boundaries that we have. So we have to set the limits for this. For example, before we understand how we are going to actually use it in practice. Now, for the scope, it starts with the customs declaration for the blockchain technology. And there are two phases of the project. For the customs declaration, first, this is developed. For example, there is an export that starts in Turkey that is going to be, for example, my model is an export to the Netherlands. And the commodity is going to leave the country, our country, by road transport. This is electrical bicycle. So these are such data, for example, electrical bicycle plus road transport. So in the second phase, this time, both in the Turkish and the world economy, which we believe is that e-commerce customs declaration. And I will briefly call it ETGB. So it is going to be declared electronic trade. So an export starts in Turkey and destined to the United States of America. And the product will be transported via air, and it is going to be the colon. And that's the scenario that we have. So I'm going to speak about so many different actually documents. So I have to mention the parties to this process. It's not only customs declaration, but around the customs declaration, there are so many stakeholders, plus so many documents that are generated. First of all, it starts with the invoicing. There is the invoice data. So the process starts with the invoice data, then continues with the following documents. We have the customs declaration, ATR circulation document, and at the same time, certificate of origin at the same time should be generated. So the customs broker presents the documents and then makes a customs declaration. And for example, the Chamber of Trade, Ministry of Trade, they are the parties that are approving those documents. Therefore, the transport companies and all the relevant insurance, for example, documentation, which makes insurance companies as a party, and the brokerages or again the broker agents, they are also a part of us. So we have both public and semi-public agencies in here. There is the need for so many approval mechanisms in here, but our main institution is the Ministry of Trade. And during this process, as you would appreciate, in terms of approving the documents and generating the documents and regulating and supervising, they're playing an active role. So they are working with the, again, single window system, single center, one-stop system, that they are a part of this process. Besides, except for the e-trade customs declaration process, and there are so many other stakeholders as well. We have the unions of exporters. And there is the customs clearance taxes, and plus there is a certain subscription fee to the membership fee to the associations. Again, it makes the banks, therefore there are so many payment processes, so they are also a part of it. So up to now, I discussed about what is going on in the current system, I mean the parties to the system and so. Now for transformation, at the same time, how we are going to fit the blockchain concept into it. You know, we're just so much integrated to fill. So maybe, I think you're all a part of this, I believe. I mean, it's a complicated term, but for this, specifically for this project, once we set blockchain, it is a decentralized and scattered digital log technology. Where we use this now, the blockchain technology is unique. It has its own encryption modalities. Therefore, your logs are kept in a safe, verifiable, and permanent manner. And while you perform these things, it is possible to work without any need to a central authority. And therefore, through an authorization, you have a blockchain, and all relevant parties are part of this blockchain, and that's how you proceed with your procedures. As for the purpose of the project, maybe the main goal of the project is to facilitate the export process and increase the export volume of the country. And there are so many, of course, byproducts of the project, but all the byproducts are at the same time serving to the main goal of the project. So, and let's just look at the breakdown of what we are going to do. First of all, these are the four main objectives that we have. The first one is to standardize the data and to redesign the data and to make them unique and singular in the blockchain technology. Therefore, in this process, so many documents that are actually repeating itself will be reduced, because as you all know, in trade, there are so many paper work, and it just moves on by approval of such documents. But with the blockchain, there will be a single source, and the single source will have access to the third parties, and there will be no need for generation of the documents. Therefore, with all the relevant parties, there is going to be, they all will be defined in the blockchain. So we will optimize transparency and integration among the parties, and at the same time will facilitate cooperation in a way you also make all the documentation transparent. The other thing is to create a trade environment which is safe and reliable. And by the way, we at the same time avoid all potential abusers. And the other thing is that there are smart contracts used by the blockchain technology, therefore trying to reduce the cost by speeding up the procedures that requires less human intervention. And therefore the human factor will be a little bit reduced, and by speeding up the process in general, we'll be reducing the cost. So these are the main things about the blockchain. But once we complete all these four main goals, we at the same time will be facilitating in general the export processes. So the basic actions within the project I'd like to mention about this. The first thing is there are 5 main steps of the project, I can say. So the starting point is, and as our stakeholders are there, to systematically analyze the processes and at the same time design the blockchain technology itself after the analysis of all the processes. Once we actually have the new workflow with the blockchain, according to these work processes, we'll have a new governance model. In designing this governance model, our stakeholders will be in a newly created network. They will be retrieving data depending on their authorization to retrieve data or to enter data into the system. We are giving them authorization. So there is a new governance model. And there will be a theoretical work that we will be completing. And after this completion, Then this time there will be a blockchain network to be established with the specific authorization that we mentioned. And for there will be also some complementary practices that will allow the functioning of the blockchain network. As I told you, we are working on the proof of concept. So it means that it's not an actual integration, but without an actual integration to see whether the system works or not, especially I gave you two scenarios. So you have to enter some data and test the simple data to see the functioning of the system. Then in the fourth part, after the coding part is completed, then this time, together with the testing of the data, to check, we will check whether the system gives the deliverables that we want. So we will ask our distinguished stakeholders to report together with the data. And this fourth part, this is actually the tangible, the physical part of it. And then there will be the activities for raising awareness. And we will collect some data, how they will serve to our stakeholders. We will identify those, and especially to what extent they take advantage of this process. And in particular, the parts, by taking the parts that touches to digitalization, there will be in a way a guidelines that we will have.
Now, quite briefly, I'd like to touch upon the sectoral advantages, but before what we gain as a sector, there are some few points I'd like to highlight. Now, these sectoral gains that I will be discussing with you will be the predicted gains of the sector that we are expecting at the end of the project. Actually, the stakeholders that will be the recipients of the commodities, as well as the processes that are a part of, our gains and advantages will be quite high. In addition to it, mainly the exporters, but also all the other stakeholders will have a benefit in the way of an accelerated journey in digital transformation. This is another expected outcome of the project. By the end of the project, we expect for our exporters to gain certain benefits, including the follows. Now, together with blockchain, there will be some smart contracts that you will be concluding. Together with the complementary procedures, there will be a contribution to the process automation. Therefore, the process speed will be increased, as a result of which all other systems will go through a cost reduction in favor of our exporters. At the same time, all the data will be transferred through the network where our stakeholders are connected to. Therefore, it will be an easier way of doing business, which in the future will result in an easy reporting and a feedback system whenever and wherever they'd like to access. At the same time, as the first step of the system is process analysis, we will examine the existing processes in the world that we will be redesigning all the processes with the contribution of blockchain. There will be an improvement thanks to digitalization. At the same time, by way of using technologies, including the blockchain technology, we will also have a standardization for the transfer and transmission of data. Independently from the industry or the sector exporters are working, we will achieve an optimization of business processes. At the same time, for the counterparties who are the recipients of the commodities, once they also get to use the blockchain technology, exporters of the day will be using all the process with so many collaborators and stakeholders. Therefore, our exporters will be ready to get into a safe environment where their preferability will increase. As for public authorities, they also will have a lot of advantages and gains at the end of the project. Actually, the most important gain of the project is to accelerate and facilitate trade processes. But on top of it, we encourage export systems where the stakeholders will play an active role and speed up the processes, that the parties involved will use such systems with lower cost. At the same time, availability of concomitant processes will be facilitated. It is quite critical that we are discussing all of these aspects early this year, and this will carry us to a higher step when compared to our counterparts. It is really important to have a transparent follow-up of the commodities. Public authorities will get to have a transparent tracking of the commodities journey. Through the blockchain system, we will be at the point of following all the processes involved, including statistical data, timing, related discrepancies in the system, for the entire tracking of the system. This also will provide an effective control and audit over the processes by public authorities. Also, by way of smart contracts, we will overcome the legislative problems where the blockchain system will be involved for the control of the processes. This way, the implementation of the legislation will be standardized everywhere around the country. Also, internal quality control mechanisms will be more standardized and followed in that way. With the avoidance or minimalization of hard copies, this also project will contribute to social responsibility and will complete the chain of environmental sensitivities. As for the customs brokers, it will be another priority to mention data production activity, because the customs brokers are producing statements where they are submitting data by taking full responsibility before they submit documentation for approval. But imagine where the control of all the data on the invoices are done accurately all the time. This time, the statements that will be produced as a result will be accurate as well. In this respect, there will be avoidance of some penal sanctions where there will be lack of accuracy on documentation. Actually, data production will be entirely or partially based on smart contracts or by complementary technologies. In this respect, they will be placed inside the system as such. So repetition of data will be avoided, and customs brokers will create a domain where they will be also executing the process within their own control. Next to it, most of the statements will be done on a digital platform. There will be a reduction of hard copies. Therefore, transmission of the copies in a software or soft copy basis will facilitate also the transmission of such documents. Traceability of transactions in the process will contribute to a better control of follow-up of all the systems. So in case of any mistake or error to be made in the statement, it will be identified and corrected easier than hard copies. Logistic service providers are the other parties that take an active role in the flow of commodities. Their most important advantage will be about shortening the time of waiting at the customs points. In systems where we minimize the use of hard copies, we make the data control on the system. So controls over hard copies will be minimized. Therefore, at the same time, in customs offices, time spent for controlling hard copies and documentation will be minimized automatically, thereby contributing to the acceleration of physical movement through customs offices. At the same time, logistics service providers will also be involved by collaborating better with their stakeholders in different authorities, where their time of expecting information or documents physically would sometimes be very high. In such a digitalized system, it will be a mono-channel where the time of waiting will be minimized with lower costs attached to that waiting time. At the same time, whenever you need to access the documents, anytime in the production of transit certificates or other documentation, there will be no need for other mediaries. As for banks, they also will have some advantages and gains as a result of the project. As I said, there are some customs duties, taxes, subscription costs, and fees that will need to be paid on a due basis. But once we get to work with smart contracts automatically, data speed and flow and volume will be increased, and at the same time, a verification of data will be achieved through blockchain system, thereby contributing to the processes of the banks and their liabilities for checking data. So they would be spared from the time that they will check the emails, and the liability of checking information will be relieved. As for insurance companies, as the banks, they go through similar processes for verification of information to run any business activity that they would get. Time-wise, cost-wise, administrative burden of work-wise, they will be relieved. Together with the blockchain system, insurance companies will be entitled to work in a specially permitted network, so they will be using higher safety data, and at the same time they will have a better and easier access to data, where the analysis of data will be achieved in a faster way. Thanks to the combined risk analysis, policy management will run in a healthier way, where the transactions will be running smoothly within an automatic system. Well, this is all I have to say about the advantages and benefits of the project that we as the project team are expecting. And thank you very much for the time and for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Kenan Güler, Ümmü Gülsüm Özal, for this nice introduction. So, as for design of end-to-end export process within the country via blockchain technology, we have reached to the end of the virtual opening meeting. With regards to progress of the project, we will have so many meetings together with our shareholders, and we all will be expecting you to the meeting. Thank you very much for your attention and for your time.